Greetings my lovelies, and thank you for stopping by the circle today. Yes, I do have a crown on. No, I will not be taking it off. This is just who I am now. I blame all of my fellow authors on author talk. But anyway, I digress. On to today's video. So this week's video is another installment in my anime, manga, review type of thingamadoos, whatever I really want to call it. I haven't quite settled on it, but meh, whatever. So for today, I'm going to go into one of my personal favorites, Devil's Line. So let's go. Now, overall, Devil's Line is considered a 16+ manga due to suggestive themes of violence and sex. However, given some of the conversations about sex, I would definitely be more comfortable rating it as an 18+. But I can't stop you all the same, so meh. I stumbled across this actually as an anime first through Hulu that helped me dive into like my reborn anime obsession, and I thoroughly enjoyed it so much, but it only had one season, so I decided to look it up, discovered it was a manga, and bought them all as a gift to myself. And yes, I do that a lot. My poor husband, bless his heart, that's all I really gotta say. But it doesn't matter, because I'm the queen. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it and talk about the basic premise and the characters and my overall thoughts. So Devil's Line is all about vampires, and it kind of has an interesting twist on it, at least to me, from how the vampires look and their basic mythos in this world. So to sum it up, vampires are just kind of like this subset of humans. They look exactly like people, they can walk out in the daylight, no sparkles or glitters or whatever, but they do have this insatiable thirst for blood. Now, when they drink blood, that also arouses their sexual drive. So sex and blood go hand in hand, but they also treat it like a drug addiction. As in, like, once a vampire has tasted human blood and had sex off of that high, they're like hooked on heroin or something to that effect. Which is kind of interesting and cool. Another thing that I found really interesting about this is the overall vampire design. They don't look like typical European vampires, which is really interesting. Their teeth remind me very much of Japanese yokai demons, where, you know, they had both the fangs up and down, and then their eyes turn blood red, and then they develop claws and sort of just lose their ability to control themselves once their bloodlust comes over. Now, Devil's Line deals not only with just the vampires and all the fun stuff that comes along with that, but it also deals with some social aspects as well as government corruption and research and facilities and things like that, and really just how do you define yourself. So outside of the sex, which really isn't all that much in the manga, there are some other elements which are kind of cool. So let's go ahead and start talking about some of my favorite characters and the main players in this book. Dividing up who is what is a little bit tricky because there are a lot of players in this manga. However, I do believe that I can safely say that the main character, the protagonist, is Anzai, this fine specimen over here. Love him absolutely to death. He is a hybrid, so part human, part vampire, and that goes into its whole things further later on in the manga. But he basically works as a cop for Division 5, and what they are responsible for is tracking down vampires who are committing crimes like drinking blood, raping and pillaging, all that other juicy mess, or just kind of any incident involving a vampire. And they don't call them vampires, they call them devils, hence the title Devil's Line. Now, one of the characters that we're first introduced to in the manga is Skasa. She's this college student. I'm not quite sure what she's in college for, but she kind of doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life. She's kind of just content to go about and do nothing. So she has this friend a guy whose name completely escapes me at the moment, and I'll just add it up in here later once I get into the editing phase. And he apparently has confessed his love to her. She doesn't feel the same way. Kind of find out he's a vampire, and he is responsible for the rape and murder of several girls in the local area that all kind of bear a slight resemblance to Skasa. Now that's how Skasa and Anzai meet. Now they keep running into each other, and they keep sort of fighting against this attraction that they have. But Skasa's the first to get over it, because I mean, like, in all honesty, if a hot vampire saved my life, who's a cop, yeah, I would probably, you know, deal with him too. Like, I mean, he's fine. So as I said, Anzai is a part of Division 5, and I am not going to try to name all of the characters because I can't frankly remember who belongs to what face and name. So here they are. But Anzai has another teammate that is a female devil, although she doesn't necessarily look like it because she can use makeup to hide the bags under her eyes. So when vampires don't feed, they just look like your typical gamer boy who hasn't slept in 3 days. Pale, pasty, with deep bags underneath their eyes. Now there's another vampire that hops up a little kind of midway through it at the same time as kind of like the main antagonist force in the manga and in the anime. So we'll talk about the antagonist force first before we go into the last guy. So the antagonist force is the CCC, and basically they just sound like some race purity bullcrap Nazi wannabes. They believe that devils don't need to have any rights and they should be hunted to extinction. I mean, that sounds familiar in all honesty. So what they do is they try to orchestrate events that expose vampires and also expose them in the worst possible light. And sadly, they succeed for a good chunk of the storyline until the very end. And even then, it's not really clear on if they completely get away with it or not. Now, the last sort of main vampire in the series that we deal with a lot is Lee. And Lee is another hybrid who was part of the breeding program that also produced Anzai. Like I said, there's a lot of just kind of crazy off-the-wall things that happen in this manga, but I don't want to go into it because I also don't want to spoil it for anybody. So Lee is trying to train Anzai as to how to sort of control his bloodlust because unlike most vampires, Lee drinks blood on the regular. Now he's not out there downing humans, but what he's doing is he'll take like a couple of shots of it, you know, a day, and that helps to control his bloodlust so he can see blood and not lose control. So I have watched this manga several times, like probably more than I like to admit, even though it's only one season and one OVA. And for those of you who don't know, OVAs are kind of like, I don't know what the acronym stands for, but sometimes they're kind of like fillers in between seasons. Sometimes there are things that actually happen in the anime, or in the manga, or sometimes they're just made up entirely. But they're just like an extra snippet. Sometimes an anime show will be cancelled, but they'll continue on in an OVA like they do with Kami-sama Kiss. Kami-sama Kiss has its 2 seasons, and then there's an entire season OVA, which sort of kind of wraps up the whole story. But anyway, I'm rambling. Final thoughts. Like I said, I loved the anime show, and I thoroughly enjoyed reading the manga. It can get a bit dry in some places, especially when they're talking a lot about the political aspects of it and some of the biological components that go along with the devils and their whole issue. But in all honesty, it's a good read. It reads like a typical urban fantasy, and it's not bad. I mean, it's a short manga series in and of itself. It's only 14 volumes? Yes, it's only 14 volumes. So if you were to binge it, you could get it done in probably like a couple of days. Now, I would not recommend this for younger crowds, especially even though it is rated 16 plus. Like I said earlier, personally, knowing how parents can react, I would not recommend this beyond someone older than 16. Like 16, questionable, it depends on if your child is mature or not. But if you're really unsure, it can't get, and they can check it out when they turn 18. Or if they have their own money. Or whichever one comes first. So, that is all that I have for Devil's Line, a short video for a short series, but still one that I have thoroughly loved and enjoyed. So if you have an anime or a manga that you would love for me to check out, just drop a comment on down below and let me know. Right now I am still working through Banana Fish. I am dragging my feet with that one because I heard it is traumatic, but I am enjoying it so much that I am ordering the mangas through thrift books. And if you're wondering where I can buy so much manga for cheap, drop a comment, let me know, and I'll do a whole video about how to buy manga on a dime. Anyways, so that is all that I have for you today, and I will see you all next time. Bye!